So now we understand that Scrum is a framework that helps provide adaptive solutions for the complex problem. Now let's understand that what this Scrum is actually based on. So Scrum being a framework, it is based on empirical process control. Now, a principle on which the whole Scrum is based on, empiricism. What exactly the dictionary meaning of empiricism is? They say we say empiricism is an act of learning by doing, or an act of learning from your experience. Now, this is the first principle on which the Scrum is based on. Another principle for Scrum is self-management. Now, what exactly this empiricism is? See, empiricism is an act of learning based on three pillars, which is transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So if at all I have to draw it, how it might looks like. So you can say, if I consider this as a Scrum, and then we are having three pillars on which this Scrum is based on. And you can copy this. So transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Base for this is trust. So this is how it looks like. So base of this is trust. Trust brings a transparency in the system within the team. That is followed by inspection and then adaptation. And this is where Scrum is based on. These are the three pillars of empiricism. For Scrum to work, empiricism is needed, transparency is needed, inspection, adaptation is needed. And this is complemented with 5 Scrum values. You'll find another video on Scrum values itself, which I've created. You will find it in my YouTube channel. Now, what are these 5 Scrum values? Now, these 5 Scrum values is courage, focus, openness, respect, and commitment. The easy way to remember is C for C. Courage. Courage means have courage to say no to the work that doesn't add value. No to the work that has low value or that doesn't add value. If at all you are busy with sprint, or if you're busy in a sprint to deliver a goal and some ad hoc work pops up, have courage to say no, because for you, the goal is more important. Have courage not to deliver low quality. Have courage to ask for help. Have courage to accept failures. Have courage to deliver a business functionality every iteration that can attract the feedback. Then comes focus. Here talk about focus on goals. Focus on the quality of the deliverables. Focus on technology or technical excellence. Focus on delivering a small business functionalities, every iteration that can attract feedback. It goes hand in hand with courage. Focus on teamwork. Openness. Openness for feedback, both to give and to receive. Be open for ideas. Be open to provide help. Be open about your challenges. Then we talk about respect. Respect for people, respect for their culture, their knowledge, respect for people ideas. Commitment. Commitment is often considered as a misunderstood word in a lot of scenarios. We often consider commitment as a contract, that what you told you must deliver. See, nobody has seen future. You really don't know that in an iteration, what business priorities can change, what business functionality can change, if the market can evolve. So that we cannot predict the future. When you cannot predict the future, then how we can commit on, or I would say scope on the timeline or the budgets. We often consider this as a contract, but actually it is not a contract. Commitment is all about giving your 100% to deliver. Whether we will be able to deliver or not, nobody has seen future. But yes, commitment is a very important value. That means that, okay, yes, we are committed as an individual, as a team, we are committed to deliver or to give our 100% to deliver. So this is the values and principle on which the Scrum is based on. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into this now one by one. So we know where Scrum is applicable. It is applicable for complex environment to provide adaptive solutions. We know Scrum is actually based on empirical process control. What is empiricism? Empiricism is transparency, inspection, and adaptation, base for which is trust. And there are 5 Scrum values, which is courage, focus, openness, respect, and commitment. Now let's talk about the Scrum, why it is called as framework. In my first video, I did mention that we'll call something a framework when it provides you a structure which is governed by rules, guidelines within which people use the practices or develop practices in order to deliver well. Now, Scrum is a framework because Scrum does provide that structure. And the structure of Scrum consists of 15 elements, where each element serves a purpose. Now, in these 15 elements, we are having 3 roles that serve the purpose of accountability. Product owner, the person who represents the business side of the product. And this person is accountable for value maximization or maximizing the value of work done by the developers. Scrum Master, the person who represents framework and people enablement. Accountability, Scrum adoption as defined in Scrum Guide, and the Scrum team effectiveness. Developers, the role that represents technology, accountability, quality, deliverables, creating a quality deliverable by end of each sprint. Together, Scrum team, and as a team, they serve the accountability of creating a potentially reasonable increment by end of each sprint. Then we are having 3 roles. Then we are having 3 artifacts. Artifact is byproduct of something, and artifact in Scrum raises transparency. How there is transparency, we'll talk about that. Now, the first artifact is nothing but a requirements in Scrum, which is product backlog, an inventory of the things that needs to be done on the product. Then we are having a subset of the product backlog that we take in a sprint in order to deliver a value. Sprint backlog. Now, this sprint backlog gets converted into a potentially releasable deliverable, which is increment. So these are the 3 artifacts. Then we are having 3 commitments. commitment leads to focus. The first commitment is the product goal. The goal that we are trying to achieve in the product. Maybe this goal is for the business, or maybe it is for the users, but we work towards achieving some goal. And this goal is a commitment wherein your product backlog is committed to deliver on this goal. Sprint goal. Whenever we plan for a sprint, we plan to serve a purpose, to serve a goal. And in order to achieve the goal, we forecast the work item that becomes a part of your sprint backlog. So your sprint backlog is committed to deliver on sprint goal. Then comes your definition of done, which is a shared understanding within the Scrum team on what done means. We can always also say that it's a kind of a checklist that a team needs to stick to in order to create a potentially releasable increment. So your increment is committed to deliver on definition of done. So that's why these are the 3 commitments. Then you're having the events, 5 events. A time box activities, which happens at a certain interval. And the purpose, what they serve, is inspection and adaptation. Now, we are having a container event, which is sprint. Remaining 4 events happens inside the sprint. So your sprint starts the event, which is sprint planning. The purpose of sprint planning is to create a plan for the sprint in order to achieve the goal. Daily Scrum. The purpose of a daily Scrum is to inspect developers' plan on a daily basis and adapt to achieve the goal. Sprint review, the purpose of which is feedback, which is product improvements. Then you're having a sprint retrospective, the purpose of which is to inspect ourselves as a team and then how we can become more effective. So these are the 5 events. And then we are having one activity. The purpose is to bring readiness to the requirements, which is product backlog refinement. So these are the 15 elements that serves a specific purpose. 3 goals: purpose accountability. Product owner's purpose is to bring value to the product. Scrum Master's purpose is to ensure the Scrum is understood and enacted as defined in the Scrum Guide. Developers, they serve the purpose or accountability of quality deliverables as a Scrum team. They serve the purpose of creating a potentially releasable increment by end of each sprint. Then artifacts brings transparency. The product backlog's purpose is to bring transparency within the Scrum team and to the stakeholder by being an order list. Sprint backlog brings the transparency or serves the purpose of transparency by being a plan of the developers and available to the Scrum team. Increment serves the purpose of transparency via definition of done. Then we are having a product goal, sprint goal, events. The purpose of each event is sprint. The purpose is to create a potentially releasable increment. Sprint planning purpose is to create a plan of the sprint. Daily Scrum purpose is to inspect and adapt that plan on a daily basis. Sprint review purpose is to attract feedback from the stakeholders and how we can become a better product. Sprint retrospective purpose is to inspect Scrum team itself and how the Scrum team can become more effective Scrum team. And activity, which is product backlog refinement, and the purpose of this activity is to bring readiness to the requirement for the developers to work on. So this is how the framework looks like. And now we will take each and every element and we'll get to the depth of that.